Do I like classic Sonic? That is a question I've struggled with my entire life, because ever since it began, I went down a different path. Loud one too! Good old Sonic Adventure DX. And you know, Sonic Heroes. The games that introduced me to Sonic the Hedgehog. The world, the gameplay, the characters, effectively making me a lifelong fan. Or slave, depending on your perspective. Sure, they weren't the best conditions out there, but dang it did they do their best to raise me. I will defend these games to my dying breath. Though I do blame Sonic Heroes for my trust issues. Anyway, that's why my biases leaned hard into the Z-axis, and why I didn't experience the Genesis games that made Sonic a household name for the longest time. That is until we roll on over to the Nintendo DS with the Sonic Classic Collection. All 4 Genesis games in one package. I've got plenty of memories playing this on so many car rides. My first and only step into the Genesis games, because I never got past the second zone in any of them. No matter how many times I sat down and said to myself, I am going to do this! So, for the longest time, Classic Sonic and I never really saw eye to eye. But, if we listen to each other's heart... sorry. What I mean is, enter Sonic Mania. Announced in August of 2016 during Sonic's 25th anniversary event, when his reputation was in the mud again after... 25th anniversary? More like crushing 30s on Metacritic! Point is, Sonic fans were bruised and battered again. Especially after this train wreck called itself Sonic 4. The event itself followed suit with technical difficulties, terrible audio issues, and just a general lack of energy. It was a mess, which made the upcoming reveal even more unexpected. Sega proudly presented a grand return to 2D classic Sonic, made by the talented fans turned developers for the series, featuring the core trio of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, all playable, including new moves, zones, and releasing next year in 2017. It looked too good to be true. This isn't the Sega I know. Oh, there they are. Now back then, I thought it looked pretty cool. Unfortunately, childhood bias reigned supreme, and I was more excited for Sonic Forces. But as the days drew near to that August 15th release, my interest slowly grew until I eventually caved in and bought the 2D classic Sonic game over the 3D one. Who am I now? The paradigm had shifted, and I was actually playing through a classic Sonic game? What? How? Why? Why now am I genuinely enjoying a classic Sonic game? Well, the first reason was a change in myself. I got older. Some games just never clicked with me as a kid, but now that I can comprehend what sin, cos, and tan means on a calculator, I can finally grasp the physics, design, and insanely simple controls of Sonic the Hedgehog. More importantly, I stuck with it. Instead of giving up 2 zones in, I put my foot down and pushed through, because the more time I spent getting used to the physics and level design, the more fun the game got. And that kinda falls into reason number 2. This game's also really freaking well designed. Now I'm no level design expert or anything, but in my own personal opinion, and the general consensus, Sonic Mania is really freaking well designed. The usual classic Sonic flaws are ironed out to almost perfection, as the game ebbs and flows between platforming and high-speed action so well. It can effortlessly guide new players throughout zones, while providing veterans who are familiar with classic Sonic's idiosyncrasies ways to blast right through them. I'm living proof of the latter example, and eventually grew into the former. Though sometimes it can feel like you're being pulled up and down and all around these massive zones, I rarely felt like I was going the wrong way. And the level design rewarded my exploration and clever use of the game's physics with secret paths, hidden items, and the special stages. that are not only insanely fun, aren't borderline unfair, but also have these low poly 3D models for Sonic in the game? How many times am I gonna repeat the word perfection? Oh wait, they made a whole mode called that. I was addicted to blue spheres. This sound effect? Crack. On to the characters. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are back with their unique gameplay quirks. Tails can fly for a short period of time, Knuckles can glide and climb and punch and glide and Knuckles, but only Sonic can use the drop dash. I'ma need to gush about this real quick. Hands down, the best addition to Sonic's movement since the spin dash. Compared to it, the drop dash is slower, but makes up for it with its versatility, allowing you to keep the momentum going after a jump, change directions on the fly, and doesn't require you to come to a complete stop to use? I love this thing! It's balanced perfectly to not replace the spin dash, but to supplement it, and has impacted the series so much, appearing in future Sonic games whether it needs to be there or not. Get this thing out of here! Though there's plenty of variety with each character, I just prefer to stick with the default Sonic and Tails playthrough. I love the drop dash too much, Knuckles' glide recovery is a little slow for my taste, and it's just nice to have a partner along for the ride that can give you a lift and deal extra damage. Whoa, Tails, whoa! Calm down! Still, all three are so expressive with wonderful sprites and animations showcasing their individual personalities. Sonic even does the moonwalk. I don't know why he did that, I think it was a glitch. Now let's talk about the relatively simple plot of Sonic Mania. Taking place right after the events of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where a new magical rock known as the Phantom Ruby appears, altering reality as Sonic knows it, transforming a group of regular old Eggman's robots into the hard-boiled heavies, the secondary antagonists of the game. So it then becomes a three-way race for the Phantom Ruby as it warps time-space itself. AKA the excuse to bring back Green Hill again! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Sega, you really shouldn't have. I know we're all tired of the constant reuse of older zones for the past, what, 14 years? That's more than half of how long I've been alive for. However, I say Mania did it just as it got old and was one of the best to do it. Bringing back classic zones like Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Stardust Speedway, Metallic Madness. There's no winning for me here, is there? And injects new life into them. Green Hill opens up in the second act with towering mountains in the background, giving the zone this new sense of scale as you speed across using zip lines. Chemical Plant now has these syringes that inject chemicals into the Megamac pools that make you bounce, and Stardust Speedway's plants now aren't only visual elements, but are part of the level design. All the zones have been touched up and remixed, with yes, some being pretty similar to the original layouts like Flying Battery Zone Act 1, where it follows most of the same beats, it's just that they took out the boring parts where nothing was happening and kept the fun stuff while making the levels better. Same goes for Redacted, having boats on the higher, faster path up above, and don't pop or you'll drop dead down below. Just look at the beginning of both Act 1s, as Mania eases the player into the level's mechanics by showing straight away how to not drown, while also adding an elemental shield to the left to make the level easier and reward exploration. The level design is taken even further when some zones are expanded and combined with others. Take Lava Reef Zone Act 2, which has been broken down further with even more machinery and conveyor belts for Eggman's launch site, mixing in elements of Quartz Quadrant from Sonic CD as Lil Plant now lurks in the background, which hey does lead well into the next zone being Metallic Madness, though my favorite addition to Lava Reef has to be the pink dinosaur badniks they added to Act 1. Here I am. Woo. The revisited levels are streamlined, expanded, and remixed to be, in my opinion, way better than the originals. Full credits to lead level designer Jared Castle, art director Tom Fry, and everyone else on the team for adapting these zones visually and mechanically. Not to say that the original levels were badly designed, far from it, most definitely gave a good base to work off of. But it's incredible to me that there are no stinkers here. I'm just gonna come out and say it, I even liked Oil Ocean. The real stars of the show, though, are of course the completely new zones, where the devs really get to flex their creativity. From the subversive press gardens that starts you within the printing factory, bouncing around on conveyor belts before making your way outside to a beautiful winter forest for Act 2, where you can see how the trees are grinded into sawdust to create the paper in the factory. Mirage Saloon lets you shoot Sonic out of a gun, 10 out of 10. Except I could have gone without the Sky Chase Redux for Act 1. Wish it was just a train the whole time. Act 2 though is great. The wanted posters in the background that foreshadow the boss fight at the end, and it being a giant saloon with piano keys, spinning chairs, and again, the gun. It's the best non-pinball pinball level. Then there's the gargantuan final level Titanic Monarch. I actually timed out here the first time, it was huge. It's so cool you can see the actual Titanic Monarch robot in the background of Act 1, and Act 2 takes place inside it. Just this giant labyrinth of portals and roller coaster rides that really made my head spin. And I love Studiopolis. When I hear the word Mania, my mind instantly goes to this zone. Headlining the marketing, Studiopolis is one of the best Sonic zones ever. It's a concept you would only ever find in a Sonic game. Blasting through a theatrical city at night, traveling through radio waves, jumping off clapperboards, breaking through glass, and ending off the high-speed boss fight? Now that's how you make an impression. Then Act 2 takes place within a giant film studio, filled with monitors, falling lights, lottery machines, all while blasting through electric cables, and ending with a weather reporting boss fight. It's a city that never sleeps, just look at everything going on. Studiopolis is a visual treat that perfectly captures everything I love about this series. The zones, the visuals, the level design, the boss fights, and oh, the music! Hit it! T-Lopes. I have him up there with Crush 40, Jun Senoi, Otani, and Naganuma for top quality Sonic music. He alongside Falk have made my favorite soundtrack in any 2D Sonic game, somehow competing with Sonic Rush. Every song has this wonderful energy evocative of the zone you're in, from remixed classics to entirely new tracks that fit right in. With Studiopolis Act 1 easily being my favorite in the game, and Flying Battery Zone Act 1 as a close second. Everything about this game, the visuals, music, gameplay, levels, special stages, and even the boss fights, have all come together to make this game an absolute blast. I usually start to wear out 4 zones in, but here I am collecting every Chaos Emerald early on to blast through the rest of the game with Super Sonic. However, this time around, I wanted to test myself and vowed not to go super. Oh, am I kidding? Whee! Take that, egghead! Then it turns into a 3-way fight for the Phantom Ruby until Super Sonic remains victorious. Unfortunately, this is actually the bad ending, where Sonic gets sent off to Sonic Forces. Quick, we must save him from mediocrity before it's too late! No! All that goodwill, down the drain, in 3 months. Sadly, it only took a Sonic Forces out of 10 to bring that bar right back down to the ground. Regardless, the impact this game had should never be understated. It brought a lot of old fans back to the series and created new ones like me, who love the animated shorts, that amazing opening that brings a smile to my face every time I watch it, and hey, I even got the DLC after being long overdue. But I must confess, while this game did get me into classic Sonic, I didn't beat it until January of 2019. I did enjoy it more than any other classic game before, and got further on my first attempt, but it didn't grab me until later when I stuck with it and began to appreciate it for what it was by understanding it, by putting away my biases and frustrations in order to sit down and learn the game. Since then, I committed to playing the rest of the Genesis games on Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, and finally Sonic CD and Sonic Origins. That's kinda why my Switch is now a 2D Sonic machine, minus Superstars. But I can safely say now, I like classic Sonic. Maybe not as much as 3D or Sonic Rush, but I now see the appeal thanks to the magic of this game. And what is that? Well, it's simple. It's love. This infectious love for the series that seeps through every aspect of it, from fans who grew up loving the classic games, from Christian Whitehead who created the retro engine to replicate the physics of the Genesis games, going on to work with Sega themselves to remaster Sonic CD 1 and 2 for mobile. T-Lopes began his career as a hobby remixing Sonic music, then composing for fan games before becoming the lead composer of Sonic Mania. Stealth, also known as Headcanon, created a proof of concept that the GBA version of Sonic 1 didn't have to suck, and went on to also help make the mobile ports of Sonic 1 and 2, and eventually Sonic Origins, all alongside many other inspired artists and developers who loved the series and put their all into this game. I never thought I would be fighting Eggman in the Mean Bean Machine, see abandoned Sonic characters pop up as cameos, or witness the return of Mighty and Ray in the DLC. But here we are, all made possible by the dedicated developers who love Sonic, and to Sega for letting them make the game, paving the way for some of these talented developers to eventually spread their wings, creating Evening Star to make something entirely new while causing a resurgence for classic Sonic that brought back his original creator, Naoto Oshima, who eventually made this game that I currently have no opinion on because I haven't played it yet, but I'm sure I'll get to it in due time. Because hey, I do like classic Sonic. Not enough to pay $80 though, no siree. What were they thinking with that? Yep, classic Sonic and I now see eye to eye, even though he's like 3 feet tall. So the lesson you should live and learn from this is to buy Sonic Mania, buy Penny's Big Breakaway, play them both, and with that, I'll see you later.